How's everybody doing today? This is Rich Harshaw, and we're here for our, I almost said annual, but it's not annual, it's 2 times a month, Tuesday morning ad clinic. How's everybody doing today? I was on vacation last week, and it was good, but I'm glad to be back. And we have got a full slate of stuff to review today. If I am not mistaken, our first submission is archery marketing, and that would be Derek McDonald. So Derek, let me see if I can get you on the line with me here. Let's see. There he is. Oh, you need to use your audio pin, Derek. I'm going to give it to you. Everybody else don't listen because each individual person is assigned their own audio pin. Derek, your audio pin is #114#, and you've got to enter it precisely like that, #114#, and that should put you on. Okay, there you go. Derek, are you there?
I'm here. You're there, Rich.
Hey, how you doing? Good to talk to you.
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It looks like we've got a website review to do for you.
Hopefully.
Okay, and as such, I will pull that up. Let me see if I've got that here. I'm sure I do. Okay, what is the web address? I've got a picture of it, but I'd like to pull it up live if possible.
Well, it's actually not working. It's not live yet. I'm waiting to get a review from you before they do the coding.
Okay, well, we can do this then. Does this look okay? This is what we're supposed to be looking at, right?
What we're supposed to be looking at. There's been a couple of very minor changes since that was done, but as I said, very minor.
Okay, so why don't you give me an idea here what we're looking at?
Sure. So the idea of my business is that you know or may remember that I'm helping business differentiate themselves from their competitors. So I'm basing my marketing around businesses, trying to get businesses away from, or trying to help businesses separate themselves from their competitors. So I actually had Ben spend an awful lot of time with me, and I had a lovely woman who was helping me do a lot of editing. We spent the entire weekend, well, probably actually a couple of weeks, coming up with this, and then I've had a web designer put this together. So this is really where I'm at, trying to put a strong headline on there, and I'm not happy with the headline. I'm not unhappy with the message that the headline conveys. It's the layout that I don't see having the effect that I think it should.
And why is that?
It seems like there's an awful lot that I'm looking at. Maybe some underlining, maybe some different fonts. I don't know exactly what, Rich. How about we get your opinion on it, Rich?
Well, okay. Well, I always like to see what people have to say. You say there were things about it you didn't really like, so I'm just interested to know what is it about it that you didn't like. I'll tell you what jumps out at me. The first thing that I would change on this, before I even read the headline, one of the major problems we have here is that the font in the headline is too big and therefore too crammed and too crowded. So it's really, it negatively affects readability by not allowing for any, what we call in the professional world, white space.
Right.
So let's say that you've got roughly, this is just kind of a rough guess, you've got about 10 inches wide by about 3 inches tall, so you've got about 30 square inches to work with where that headline is, and you're filling up about 27.5 of the 30 inches, and we need to shrink that down to about maybe 24 inches. Now, to accomplish that, the first thing that we're going to want to do is make sure that we create some visual space between the first question and the corresponding answer to that question so that they visually appear to be two separate things, which they are. Now, I've also got a suggestion for you on the header. are you sending the message that you're no different than your competition? Okay, were you going to say something?
No,
Oh, okay, I thought you had something out there. Let's just play around with this for a minute, and in the normal style of these calls, I'm not saying that, hey, here's exactly what I would do. I'm just kind of playing with it to see what I think and how things sound. So it seems like it might be interesting if we change the headline, just very subtle change, but I think maybe an effective change. Are you sending the message that you're exactly the same as your competition? Let's try that for a minute. Are you sending the message that you're exactly the same as your competition? Now, the meaning for those two phrases is identical, but I like the higher level of precision of exactly the same. Now, it's kind of hyperbole because they're probably not sending the message that they're exactly the same, but I do kind of like that increased level of precision. So let's try that again one more time. Are you sending the message that you're exactly the same as your competition? It's highly likely that you are. Okay, now here's what I might do. Let's keep that on exactly the same. I think we can keep it on 3 lines. We can make that whole headline about 20% smaller. And then instead of it's highly likely that you are, again, maybe just a minor tweak. And when I recommend a minor tweak, here's what that really means. What we have is good. I don't see anything wrong with it, but maybe we can just make it a little bit more powerful. If you didn't take these changes, it would probably be fairly similar in terms of the impact. But if we can up the impact by 5% or 10% or 15%, we might as well try it, okay? It's highly unlikely it's highly likely that you are. We might want to change that to say something like, believe it or not. It's always a great way to start a sentence when we're introducing an idea that they might not believe, because it gives them permission to not believe something that they currently believe. Believe it or not, there's a 99% chance you are.
Okay.
Now, let's try, we're just going to, again, I'm just playing around with this. Don't take and do anything with it until we get done playing, all right? Let's try to put it all into one sentence. Believe it or not, comma, there's a 99% chance you're sending the message that you're no different than your competition, that you're exactly the same as your competition. You know, when I say it that way, I like no different better than exactly the same if we combine it. I don't know which one we should do. Let's try them both. Sometimes it's just a matter of trying them both. And I like saying them out loud because sometimes when you say stuff out loud, it reads a little bit different than it looks on the page. Not always, but sometimes. And typically people are going to be hearing, you know, their inner voice as they read it. Okay, so let's try it one more time. Believe it or not, there's a 99% chance that you're sending a message that you're exactly the same as your competition. Are you sending the message that you're exactly the same as your competition? Believe it or not, there's a 99% chance you are. Okay, I can live with either one of those. Let's see what's below it. Okay, we've got 2 guys smiling. Be seen as the obvious choice to do business with. I don't see any obvious match between these photos and the headers. Is it trying to say that you look the same as your competition?
Yeah, well, that's basically where the pictures are more in line with the top part. The bottom, the be seen as the obvious choice to do business with, I think should be out of that. The difficulty with what I'm trying to do here is be seen as the obvious choice to do business with should be off of this photo, I think. But right below that, you have what marketing challenges do you face, and I'm having a hard time separating that.
Well, you know, I think that this picture is really a stretch.
Okay.
I think if you're expecting people to go, oh, I get it. It's the same guy with a slightly different pose. So he's the same. You're the same as your competitor. Oh, okay, I get it. And here's the other part of that. Even if they do get it, it doesn't really heighten the impact at all.
Okay.
It's not like, oh, geez, man, look, they're exactly the same. Holy crap, I didn't realize we were the same as everybody else. That's not what's going to happen.
Right.
So problem number 1 is they may not even draw the conclusion. And number 2, if they do draw the conclusion, it's not really heightening the experience much. So I think And number three, okay, this is probably the most important one, is it might cause them to go, what? Now, maybe they'll go, what? Oh. And see, none of those are good.
Okay. Well, none of those reactions are good.
Yeah, I mean, if they go, what? And they just stay on what, then that's not good. And if they go, what? Oh, that's still not very good.
Damn.
Are you sending the message?
I really like that picture.
Is it you? No, I've seen you. That's not you.
That's not me, Rich.
That's you if you subtract about 22 years. How old is this kid, like 19?
Yeah, he's far better looking than me.
Oh, well, then maybe you should leave him on there.
So do you have a suggestion for the I played around with about half a dozen pictures, and I like the fact of using the twins, and I don't know where to go from there.
Well, let's just talk for a minute before we start making too many suggestions. Okay, so we've got this headline. We've kind of tweaked it a little bit. I've given you some spacing ideas that I think are worthwhile. Let's keep going down the page. Let's ignore the photo for just a minute and assume that there's some kind of a photo there. Required solutions, quick access.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really even know what that's there for.
I know that's just basically a template. I am going to have a call to action in that corner.
Okay. Be seen as the obvious choice to do business with. What marketing challenges do you face? This seems to me to be a little bit disjointed.
Okay.
It seems a little bit disjointed. Are you exactly the same, or are you no different? It's likely that you are. Be seen as the obvious choice. And then I feel like I want you to explain that to me. But as soon as I feel like I want that explained, you start making me make additional choices.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, well, what was that exactly the same thing? What marketing challenges do you face? My marketing doesn't accurately represent my business. People aren't convinced. So I just feel like this is a little disjointed. Now, each thing in and of itself isn't necessarily bad or wrong, but I think the amalgamation of this, it's kind of like, you know, I don't know if you're much into sports, but one of the problems that you see in sports sometimes, and let's talk basketball specifically because it's such a team sport. All of the guys on the team have to be in unison and in concert with each other. And a lot of times you'll see teams that go out and they'll grab really good players and they'll put them on the team, but they don't really have any chemistry together. And so the sum of the whole is actually less than the individuals. And really what you're looking for in a team is you want the sum of the pieces to be greater than the individual pieces, right?
Right.
So this website is kind of like a basketball team with a lot of really good players, but they're not really working that well together. So we don't want to blame the players. We want to just say, okay, let's take a step back and see if we can do something different here. Are you sending the message that you're no different from your competition? It's highly likely that you are. Be seen as the obvious choice to do business with. See, I feel like here we need to have more information about what you just said. There's a 99% chance that you are. It's highly likely that you are. And then you're saying be seen as the obvious choice. Doesn't seem like the right next thing to say. The right next thing to say is, here's what I mean when I say you're exactly the same.
Okay.
See,
okay.
We're saying things that are going to elicit a response. It's incumbent upon us to know what that response is going to be so that we can continue the conversation with the proper flow. So if I say, hey, you're no different than your competitors, the way that you're messaging is very likely that you're suffering from this problem, well, what's the reaction people are going to have to that? You tell me.
Yeah, no, I see your point.
No, but I want you to articulate it.
Okay.
So because if you can't articulate it, you can't use it. You can't run with it if you can't articulate it.
Right. Okay.
So what is the likely response to that?
From the headline or from the be seen as the obvious choice?
No, get rid of forget that. Just from the headline.
Okay. Are you sending the message that you're no different than your competition, the highly likely that you are? Yeah, I guess that's eliciting how am I then? You know, the question would be how am I?
Okay, I'm going to articulate it a little bit different. I think you're on the right path here. Because see, when you say be seen as the obvious choice to do business with, you're automatically assuming that they're buying into your premise. Are you sending a message that you're no different than your competition? It's highly likely that you are. You're expecting the person to say, "Oh, geez, man, that's true. I am doing it that way." Be seen as the obvious choice. Oh, wow, okay. Here's a solution to that problem that I readily agree with, and after 0.3 seconds, am in full alignment with. But it's not true.
Right.
The likely scenario is, are you sending a message that you're no different than your competition? It's highly likely that you are. They're going to go, what? No, I'm not. And it's not going to be belligerent, and it's not going to be combative, and it's not going to be, you know, some sort of they put up their fists for a fight, but it's going to be more of a, what?
Right.
What are you talking about? I'm not doing that.
So are you saying that they need an explanation on?
Yes. Yeah, see, now let me re-articulate this one more time so I can be very succinct with the problem, because I think this is extraordinarily powerful for everybody else on this call to kind of take their own marketing through this process.
Yeah.
When you say be seen as the obvious choice to do business with, you're already recommending a solution. And you can only recommend a solution when they buy into the problem. And I don't think they have enough information to have already bought into the problem here. So the solution seems hollow, unwanted, unneeded, it's premature, and so we've got to add more information. You know, it'd be like putting an ad that says, unfortunately, you've in the entire country. And then the very next line is, here's how to make yourself look better. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I'm not going to give in to I'm in the ugliest 10% that easy. Come on, let's talk about this first before I start buying your solution. Okay, so I just use that stupid example to sort of dramatize this, okay?
I understand.
Okay, so what if we said something like this? Again, key thing on these calls, something like this, all right? Are you sending the message that you're no different than your competition? It's highly likely that you are. And, of course, we can re-articulate that in some of the ways that I said before, but it won't change the meaning. It's highly likely that you are. Your website, your advertisements, your direct mail are all saying the exact same things in very similar words to your competitors. Now, I don't really like that after I said it, but I like the idea and the direction I'm headed. So they go, oh, you mean my website and my ads? Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, I kind of get that now. And I still feel like I want a little bit more information, but I feel like, oh, okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or what about this?
That makes sense.
What about this? Are you sending the message you're no different than your competition? It's highly likely that you are. Take this 30-second test, and I'll prove it to you.
Right.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what the 30-second test is. And then I could come up with another subheadline that says, I don't know, something like your website, your ads, your direct mail, whatever marketing you're engaged in is almost certainly a copycat version of your competitors. Take these 3 tests, and then we would put the 3 tests in there. Number 1, the scratch and write out test. Number 2, well, I would hope so. Number 3. So here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to convince them that they actually have this problem.
Yeah.
You know,
I
this isn't.
I completely see where you're going with that.
And let me be even more specific. Sorry to kind of beat this dead horse, but I think it's real critical, again, not just for you, but for others on the call. If I were to run an ad for a consumer product that said something like, do you have chronic halitosis? Or do you suffer from dandruff? Or do you have the worst, you know, you have really bad acne, okay, for beauty type products? Well, the person that I want to respond to that is somebody that instantaneously knows and agrees that that's the case. I know that I have acne. I know that I have bad breath. I know that I have dandruff, right? So I can immediately start to introduce the solution. But this is something that's going to take a little more buy-in. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so now as we get down here, what marketing challenges do you face? Again, now this starts to feel very disassociated with the headline. Well, what do you mean, what marketing challenges do I face?
Now, if you were doing something along the lines of the 30-second test, and then they're buying into it, I'm sorry, I'm just talking while I'm thinking. Does it have a flow now?
Okay, so here's what I would do. I would either, if you want to use video, that's good. I like video. I would create a video that talks them through that process, or I would use text, or both, okay? But it needs to hit that issue. Take this 30-second test, and I'll prove it to you. So maybe then they watch a video, and then you come on, or voiceover, whatever the case is, and says, hey, I know that your marketing is probably good, and you think it's great, but the fact is, in over 99% of the cases, marketing is copycat. Here's why. Most people don't, and then whatever it is, you go through and talk about that. Okay? Yeah. Here's 3 quick tests. The first one is what we call the scratch out write-in test. Very simply put, take your website, take your competitor's website, put your name on theirs and vice versa. Does it change? Are there unique things that you do that are special and specific to you? Do you communicate it with power, precision, and passion? Here, let me give you an example. Here's an ad for this, here's a website for this, and here's another website for this. See how they're almost the same? Now, here's what one looks like if you communicate it with power, precision, and passion, and here's one that doesn't. See how that works? Okay. Now, go look at your website. How does yours look compared to your competitors? Number 2, it's called the scratch out write-in test. And maybe you make 3 videos. Video 1. Video 2, video 1 is the scratch out write-in test, Chris. Video number 2 is the, the well, I hope so test or whatever. You figure it out.
Yeah.
And then maybe over on the side you could put some kind of a bar, top marketing challenges you might be facing. Now, if it's over on the side, then it's instantly recognized because of the visual spacing of where you put it that, oh, okay, this is kind of related to everything else on this website, but this isn't the next logical flow to the conversation we've been having.
Right.
So it's appropriate.
So what about, sorry, go ahead.
You see what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to use space and visual spacing to put things in a place that makes sense to the prospect. If I put them over on the right-hand side in a column that's tall and it says top marketing challenges you might face, they're not going to mistake that for, oh, this is the next thing that goes with this stuff over here on the left. They're going to look at it and go, oh, this is this is a company that obviously does some marketing help, and here's some things that they might be able to help with. Okay, I got it. This is sort of separate but related. But the way you have it now is it's the next logical flow.
Yeah. Would you suggest that the 4 boxes I have, make that into 1 box? What marketing challenges do you face, opening up to another page and then having these laid out as such?
Well, what I might do is, again, I might just stick them over on the right-hand side so they kind of go down the side of the page a little bit. They might need to be smaller, but I don't think your pictures there are really helping much.
Okay.
So now for dumb analogy number next on this call, here's kind of what you're doing. Let's say that you're trying to pick up a woman at a bar. Not that I've ever done such a thing, but
me neither.
Anyway, it's a common scenario that people can identify with. It's like, hey, baby, how you doing? And she's like, oh, hey, how you doing? And instead of talking about something that makes sense, you say, I really enjoy ceramics and pottery. And she's like, what? But see, we could put a little box over to the side that says, here's some of my interests: pottery, ceramics, politics, whatever, right? Yeah. But you're just flowing right into that, and it makes no sense. So let's put them over here on the side, visually spaced, so that people go, oh, okay, I got it. So here, let's go back. Let's go back to the top. Are you sending the message that you're no different than your competition? Is highly likely than you are. Take this 30-second test, and I'll prove it to you. And then we can have a video or some text or both that go into some of those tests. Over on the side, some of the what marketing challenges do you face? And then you might put, instead of these pictures, if you put them in a column, one on top of the other, you might put number 1 and have the 1 be, fairly large. And then to the side of that number 1, my marketing doesn't accurately represent my business. And then below that, number 2, so that they visually see 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, there's 4 of them, right? What we're trying to do is help people know how to categorize things in their mind as they look at your website. Now, there's nothing wrong. Again, remember the analogy of the basketball team with good pieces, but not necessarily a good fit for that team, altogether. This
Right.
what marketing challenges do you face is okay, but we need to put it in its own realm.
Makes sense. Definitely.
So, yeah. Now back to the picture. Are you sending the message that you're no different than your competition? It's highly likely that you are. What I might do here, one thing that you might do, if you wanted to use this picture, one thing I might do is I might make the guy's suit a little bit different color so that it communicates a little more clearly that they're the same but different.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And then I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm trying to use this picture, and I think that's a better way to use it, but I still don't necessarily like it.
Yeah. I mean, I probably tried about 6 different pictures, and then finally came up with the idea of the twins. Liked it, but I definitely see your point. The first way we were going with the picture was the conveying the message part, conveying a message. So having a guy scream through a bullhorn type thing versus yeah.
I don't know how appropriate these pictures might be on here, but I'm thinking maybe somebody looking in the mirror at themselves. I don't know. This is something you could obviously fool around with.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's see. Where were we? We were right. Oh, here. Okay. So yeah, I think there's some good ideas there. Fool around with it a little bit.
Okay.
All right. You have any questions for me?
No. I'll start working on some changes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, appreciate you being on the call again today. It's good to talk to you, and we will talk to you next time for sure.
Okay. Thanks, Rich.
All righty. Bye-bye. All right. You are now muted. Let's go to Payroll Express in Mr. Story. I see you right here. James, let me unmute you. Are you with me, James?
Hey, Rich.
You go by Jim or James?
Jim.
Jim, okay. Well, you go by James on your official login, so I wasn't 100% sure. All righty, I have, let's see, what do I have for you?
We're going to be using this as a mailer.
Okay, so I've got a letter here. Let me see if I can just pull the actual letter up on my screen. Okay. All right, does this look familiar to you? It should?
It should.
Okay, so we've got at the top a letterhead, Payroll Express, Theodore Smith Esquire, why aren't we processing your payroll? Okay, why don't you tell me about this letter? I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so we can see how it lays out, because that's one thing we're going to want to talk about, as well as obviously the content. Why don't you tell me about this letter a little bit, and then I'll dive in with some comments.
What we're trying to do is go up against our competition, normally the bigger companies, and we're trying to get the attention why they should be using us versus the major companies. And those are some of the reasons that we came up with to use us.
Okay. I don't really like this approach because it sounds really self-serving. Why aren't we processing your payroll? I think if we go back to the last caller, and I was encouraging him to think, okay, what kind of response does that elicit in the prospect's mind? And remember, his was, did you realize that your message makes you look like everybody else? And I encouraged him to think through, well, how are people going to accept that? Are they going to say, yeah, you're right? Or are they going to say, well, I don't know? And in this case, when you say, why aren't we processing your payroll? I had a conversation with you a couple months ago about one of your problems is always going to be the fact that people just don't care that much about their payroll. It's just not a problem. It's
Right.
something that they don't think about much. And I think the easy response to why aren't we processing your payroll, the way that it's positioned on this page is because who cares is why.
Okay, suggestions?
Well, believe it or not, I'm going to give you another analogy, okay? Now, please accept this analogy, and not just you, but anybody listening to this call, without any political bias. Whoever you like, Republicans or Democrats, and if you're looking at the Republican primaries, Romney or Gingrich really is immaterial, but the analogy happens to be from the Republican primary. So last week, or whenever it was, I guess it was 2 weeks ago in South Carolina, in the debates, Gingrich came out and was very, very fiery and outspoken and really put some teeth out there against Romney. Well, Romney just kind of sat back and took the high road and focused his attacks more on Obama rather than the other candidates. And he got destroyed. So when Florida primary, which is happening today, debates came out last week, he took a whole different approach, and he took off the gloves and he started swinging because he found that just standing there absorbing the punches of Gingrich was not a successful strategy. It was getting him killed. So he started punching a little bit. And I feel like this is a South Carolina Mitt Romney approach that you're taking here. It's kind of a passive, why aren't we processing your payroll, not really focusing on the problems that the other company. Now, it very well may if we read this letter, but you're never going to get somebody to read the letter with this headline. It's the problem.
Okay.
So I've established that there's a problem, but I want to kind of delve into the psychology of it a little bit because I think it's useful, not just for you, Jim, but for others on the call. So let's get to your question now, which is obviously, okay, so then what? Well, I don't know. Let's read the letter and let's see what you have in here. Who is Payroll Express? Why should we be your payroll company? A regional payroll company processes over 400 payrolls a week in Atlantic, blah, blah, blah areas. Take a look around. It is inevitable that one of your neighbors is using Payroll Express. Payroll Express is overseen by 2 certified public accountants which use their expertise. Okay, it is simple why you should use Payroll Express as your payroll provider. We are local and keep the business in our county while employing employees who are residents of this county. You know, that's one of those appeals that is not nearly as strong as you wish it was. And it makes sense for some people, but it doesn't really matter that much for others. I mean,
okay.
if people really cared about this, we'd all be driving, you know, Fords and Chevys, right?
True.
But we don't, because at the end of the day, we like the other car better. Doesn't mean that we don't like the fact that those are American companies or we're anti-American or anything like that. It's just not necessarily as strong of an appeal. And I want to acknowledge that for some people it's a very strong appeal, but it's not. Let me put it to you this way. If that's the first thing in your list, people are going to assume naturally that you're going to put your strongest point first and go down to your weakest point last. And if that's your strongest point, then we're really in for a problem here. Okay, and let's see if that holds true. Same-day pickup at office without any additional charges. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, it is, because there are competitors who can't get it done the same day.
All or some or most?
Most.
Most can't do it the same day. How often do people need it same day? Always, sometimes, or hardly ever?
Sometimes, and in the construction industry, almost always.
Okay, and is this going to be targeting the construction industry specifically?
No.
Okay, so that's not that big of an issue then.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm asking you. I guess it's not if you're not going to be targeting. That's what I'm saying.
I would use that line if we start targeting the construction industry then.
Okay. Are you interested in targeting the construction industry?
I think any industry right now we could use, especially for a smaller industry. So I would like to go with the attorneys first, and then retail, and then construction.
Okay. So perhaps, you know, one of the things that you can take advantage of is just by saying that we specialize in attorney payroll processing, immediately has a hook, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are going to want to know, well, what do you do, or how does that, you know, how? And you better have a good answer, but it's an interesting approach. Let's look at some of these other ones. We can customize reports for ease, allowing you to focus on your business. Is that a big deal?
I think
like a very big deal to me. I'm a business owner. I'm looking at that going, well, what kind of reports?
Okay.
I'm not trying to tell you that's the case. I'm asking you.
Well, again, if you have trouble reading some of the reports, you're wasting your time, and time is money.
Well, what kind of reports would, this isn't something we're necessarily going to put in the letter. I'm just trying to understand it. What kind of reports are we talking about?
Your cash flow, your tax liabilities, when they're due, and so forth.
Okay. Due to low overhead, we were able to keep our prices comparable to our competitors, and most of the time 20% lower. Okay. That sounds really wishy-washy. We're close to our competitors, and sometimes we're 20% lower. Can you make a more definitive statement than that, or does it just depend?
We could guarantee 20% lower than our competitors. But remember, when we spoke before, you said you don't want to get in a price war.
Well, you know, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't want to get into a price war, but if you're telling me you guarantee 20% lower, that's interesting. That's a lot more interesting than we can keep our prices comparable to our competitors. I mean, what you're saying in this bullet point isn't factually true even. I think.
Why do you say that?
Well, because you just told me that you're guaranteeing 20% lower, right?
I said most of the time. I didn't say all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different because I asked you. I said, "Well, is this true, or is it sometimes?"
We could guarantee 20% lower.
Always?
Yes.
Okay. See, that's not the same thing as our prices are comparable to our competitors.
Okay.
When you say to somebody we have prices comparable to our competitors, what do they immediately think? Oh, prices are about the same.
True.
And most of the time, 20% lower. You're like, okay. So that could be maybe more powerful. Unlike our competitors, we don't have annual increase in prices. Our average pricing structure lasts for approximately 2.5 years. And is it true that the competitors raise their prices annually?
Yes.
Still unsure why we should be your payroll provider. I'm sure if you contact your fellow attorneys, such as John Darcy Day, blah, 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 they may clear up any questions you may have. Yeah, I think that's a big stretch. I liked using their names. You know, people necessarily calling them is a pretty big stretch. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start over.
Okay.
Because this is really, I don't want to say this is really bad, but it's really not going to be that effective.
Okay, so let's start over. Let's do it.
All right, that's what we're going to do. So let me ask you this. We just went over the points.
Right.
All right? Don't write a letter for me right now. Just talk to me. I'm a marketing consultant. You're a client of mine, and I'm asking you a very simple question. We're not going to put this on paper. We're not going to write anything with it right now. We might later, but we're not right now. I just want to know, why would somebody do business with you? What's the biggest reasons?
Local.
Okay, local. But see, I don't understand why local is a big issue. Why does that matter to me?
Because, again, where you said before, it doesn't matter if you local or not in the keeping business in the county. I'm trying to play on the thing that local businesses working with local businesses. Is it a big thing? No.
So then how come when I asked you what's the biggest reason people do business with you, you gave me something that wasn't a big thing?
Probably our biggest reason people do business is because we're consistent, we're there when they need us, and we could handle their problems immediately if there are any problems.
Let me ask you this, and this goes back to our conversation previously. Are most people having problems with their payroll?
Some of them are, yes.
What kinds of
Yes.
problems?
Some of the problems are with invoicing. We picked up a client who had 16 companies. The corporate company couldn't get the invoicing the way they wanted it, so they left them.
What do you mean they couldn't get the invoicing the way they wanted them?
The company wanted their they kept making mistakes on the billing, and they would credit the invoice next time, and then they would debit it the next time, and the company just got tired. They said, we need a consistent invoice that reflects what we're paying, not credit this time, debit next time.
Okay. What other kind of problems do people have with their payroll company?
If you talk to most of them, not much. I mean, unless they make errors on their payroll, which sometimes they do, which, that could happen to anyone. There's not much reason for a person to switch, except for either we come in with a sharp price. Again, we sell them that we're overseen by 2 CPAs, but I don't even think that makes a major difference anymore.
Okay. If you specialize in attorneys, what does that mean specifically? Do you do something specific? Are there certain things that you know about or for attorneys that are unique?
No. The specific, if we had to go specific on that, it would be more construction than anything.
Okay. So tell me about an attorney for a minute. The average attorney firm that you do business with spends how much money a month with you?
I'm sorry, spends how much money a month with us?
Yeah.
It varies on the size of the attorney. Some of them are very small. They spend probably $100 a month. Some of them spend $400 or $500 a month. One of their major attorneys left the other company because there were consistent errors with them. They got so upset with them, they made them drive a check down for 29 cents. That's how fed up they were. So do errors occur? Yeah, and attorneys don't need the aggravation.
All right, I'm just making some notes here. Okay, I'm just going to type some stuff here. Right on your screen, right in front of your eyes. Ready?
Let's do it.
Whoops. I know this isn't very exciting to listen to, but hopefully my, at least watching, this might be helpful. But guaranteed. Okay. Is it really worth it to switch payroll companies just to save $1,100 a year? It might be if. Now, I just use this real simple format so that people can look at it and very quickly distill what the points are. Now, I've acknowledged that there's savings. It's $1,100 a year. And remember we had this discussion last time? Well, maybe it's not $1,100 a year. What if they're really small and they're only, it's only $80 a month anyway?
Right.
Well, that's okay. We can still talk about this. It's the same reason that Geico says you can switch and save 15%. Is that true for everybody that calls them? No. Not even close to everybody that calls them. But for the right company, for the right person, this could be true. Is it really worth it to switch payroll companies just to save $1,100 a year? And I've kind of put this in a format that I've acknowledged just by the way that I've said it that, you know what, would I really want to do that just to save $1,100? So I've kind of come over to their side of the discussion, and I've insinuated that, that might seem cheap and petty, but then I'm going to give the additional reasons, right? It might be if the company specializes in payroll for attorneys. They are only hired local workers to work with local firms. They had a no-fault, fix-it-no-matter-what policy. I just made that up, by the way. The savings were guaranteed in writing for 2 years. So these are some reasons why somebody might want to switch. Now,
okay.
Over here where it says the company specializes in payroll for attorneys, you say, well, we don't really do anything that specializes for attorneys. Well, I would say fix that. Even if it's just we work with this firm, this firm, this firm, and this firm, and we know the ins and outs of the attorney business to make sure we do it right every time, okay, at least there's some sort of reasoning and rationale there. Rationale doesn't always have to be great rationale, but it just needs to be rationale.
Okay.
They had a no-fault, fix-it-no-matter-what policy. All that means is that if you mess up, you'll fix it, which I assume you would do anyway.
Correct.
This is just a trickier way to say it. Okay. Switching takes just 20. I don't know how long it takes, Jim. You could tell me. It doesn't really matter. You get the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, to make this fit a little bit better on the page, I'm going to make all of this just a teeny bit smaller. There we go. There's your letter. Now you got to fill in the blanks on some of this stuff, but you get the idea.
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
Now, again, the uphill battle that you're going to be fighting on this is that people don't really care that much. So that's why I've taken the approach of, yeah, I know you don't care that much. I acknowledge that. But there is a hook that's important. It's $1,100. I mean, $1,100 is $1,100. What the heck, right?
Yep.
I switched banks when I figured out that I could save $2,500 a year in fees. Is $2,500 a year in fees going to, sink or swim my company? No. But all things considered, I might as well not pay $2,500 in fees if I can avoid it, right?
Yeah.
So I switched, and so that's kind of the appeal we're taking here. We're acknowledging that it's not that important to them. We're telling them right up front how much money they can save, which is really your bigger hook, right?
Right.
And then we're giving them the other reasons besides savings that they might want to do business with you, and then we're telling them that it's easy to do. So I think this is a good letter. I like it.
Okay.
So I will save this and send it over to you, and you'll need to fill in the blanks.
That I shall do, and I appreciate your help.
Yeah, because I only am contracted to do the heavy lifting, not the other lifting. That's your job. Okay, I'll send this over to you here in just a moment, okay?
Okay, Rich.
Okay, any other questions you have for me?
Nope.
Okay, well, easy enough. Then we'll move on to person number 3 on this call. Thanks, Jim. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Rich.
All right, bye-bye. All right, and let's figure out who person number 3 is. That would be John Wirtz. John, I see you right there. Are you with me, John?
Yes.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Rich?
I'm fantabulous. I use a really weird, dumb word, but I am. So I've got a link here to a website. Let me go ahead and click on it.
Mm-hmm.
See if this thing works. Does that look right to you?
Yep.
Okay, why don't you talk me through it a little bit, and then we'll start banging it out.
Okay. This is a website for one of my clients. We're going to present it to the management team next week. The NN Inc. is about a $500 million corporation out of Tennessee. It's in the precision components business. Traditionally, they built their business being a bearing components manufacturer. They make all the balls, the bearings, the races, all the parts to make a bearing, but they don't make bearings. They sell to the Timkens of the world, that type of thing. They also have some plastic companies and a rubber company that also makes bearing components as well as other components. They have never, before this, tried to tie the whole company together in terms of positioning. And that's why if you see at the top says NN Inc., a global manufacturer of precision components. And so this represents, this website represents an attempt to separate the holding company and position the entire company and kind of show why it makes, why the whole collection of companies, they have several subsidiaries and divisions that all make different kinds of parts. The thing that ties them all together is precision. They're all precision parts companies, but they've never really tied them together before, and that's part of what I'm trying to accomplish with the website, is to show the total breadth and depth of the company, and the fact that the thing that really kind of ties all the pieces parts together is the fact that they all are in the precision components business. So if you're a manufacturer who's looking for precision parts to make your product work, NN is the guy to go talk to, because whether it's plastic, whether it's rubber, or whether it's metal, they've got the horses and the track record and the capabilities to help you out.
So were the three categories plastic, metal, and rubber?
Pardon me?
Did you say the three categories are plastic, metal, and rubber?
Yes.
Okay, and they do not make bearings, is that right?
They do not make bearings. They make all the pieces parts that go into bearings, yes.
Okay. So why does it say from bearings to seals on the very top thing if they don't even make bearings?
Oh, because, you can't make the bearings and the seals and the shafts and the housings. Those are all components. So, the assumption is you can't make a quality bearing without quality components.
Okay, so would their main sales point be their quality? Because I heard that word come up several times.
Yeah, quality is probably one of the real differentiating factors here.
Is there a rampant case of no quality or bad quality in the industry?
There is a movement in the industry right now to kind of root out what they call counterfeit bearings. There are a number of Chinese and third world countries, India, Pakistan, Thailand, several of those kinds of countries that are actually going in and producing counterfeit bearings and putting codes and names on the bearings of the major manufacturers, like an SKF or a Timken, and selling them as a Timken or SKF bearing. And they're making them in a manner in which the bearings are failing, And when the bearing fails in a major piece of equipment, it is a very expensive proposition.
Now,
So,
outside of the counterfeiting, is there also a situation where these foreign suppliers are selling non-counterfeited but still lower quality bearing components as an alternative to the name brand ones?
yes.
I mean, I would assume that that would be more common than the counterfeit. Not discounting counterfeiting and not saying that it's not a problem, but I would assume that the larger problem is just lower quality ones that are being sold as some third-party brand.
Right. That's a very good assumption.
Okay, I mean, because we see this in manufacturing all the time. You're always going to have the issue of some counterfeiting going on, but where we typically see the problem is just lower price stuff that people bite on because it's cheap, and they kind of look at it and say, well, it looks the same, and I guess it's the same, when in reality it's just not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's an interesting thing, okay? I love doing marketing for this kind of a company because, generally speaking, they've never done any marketing before. They've only done, trade shows and catalogs and very industrialized type marketing. Is that probably the case here?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that scenario because there's this huge marketing void in the industry typically that if you step up and you really start communicating powerfully, precision, with passion what they do, it very quickly captures the minds of the prospects in the target market because they're not used to seeing that kind of stuff, and you can take a very large preemptive lead on all of the other competitors that actually are, pretty good quality. I'm going to assume that there's some other competitors that are probably pretty good quality that are out there. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, it's not like they have a patent on quality and everybody else sucks.
No, but they do have probably 70% of the worldwide market share, which is kind of unusual.
They already have 70% market share?
Yeah. In the bearing, yeah.
Do they have a major legitimate competitor that they go up against quite a bit?
Yeah. A company called Hoover Precision is one of the ones. Some of the companies that are customers of theirs are also competitors of theirs because some of the companies also make some of their own bearing components as well. There's 4 or 5 major Japanese companies that are in the bearings business that also have in-house manufacturing that they compete against. And
that they NN competes against, or they Hoover competes against?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's probably about 10 major players worldwide. The majority of them being Japanese, although there are some big European companies as well.
What about Hoover? Where are they from?
Hoover is an American company, but it was acquired by a Japanese company probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
So they're owned by one of the big Japanese companies.
The Japanese are making all the money.
Yeah.
Is NN a American company?
Yes.
Owned by Americans?
Yes. They're headquartered in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Johnson City. Is that where the brats come from? No, that's Johnsonville. What's that?
Where what comes from?
The bratwurst. I think that's Johnson City.
No, that's Johnsonville brats. Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so your question to me then would be, so what do you think about this website? Is that right?
Yep.
I'm looking at this, the bottom part of this, or the middle part of this. Precision bearing components, precision plastic and rubber components, precision metal components, precision bearing components. What am I going to find on this left-hand picture that I'm not going to find in plastic and rubber and then metal components? You see what I'm asking? Isn't that redundant somewhat?
No. maybe I don't understand what you're asking me.
Well, there's three major kinds. Okay, we got plastic, metal, and rubber. You've condensed plastic and rubber into the middle one there. Metal is on the right. What is this on the left?
Well, the precision bearing components business is considered, it's probably about, I don't know, 60% of the overall company revenues. It's the part of the business that actually NN was founded with and grew with. The plastic and rubber components, pieces, parts of the company were added, to diversify the company's businesses, as was the precision metal components, which are, and they're very, very different. The precision bearing components, all those parts are basically off-the-shelf, standard sizes, standard shapes. You need something, you pick up the phone, you call, or you get on the internet and you order the parts and they pull them off the shelf and they send it to you. Whereas the one on the far right, the precision metal components part, those are all, everything there is a snowflake. And all those parts are very high-tech, very difficult to manufacture, very complex, highly engineered kinds of products that, big dollars, big tickets, big programs, very difficult to make kinds of things. So they're very, very different business models.
Okay, I got you. So that makes sense. I see now that bearing components are different than metal components. Okay, I'm with you here. So I've clicked on the main business one, precision bearing components, and I'm seeing some of this kind of MYM type looking information on here. 5 reasons customers choose NN, how we add value. Let's talk about quality for a minute. Mm-hmm. If they choose a competitor of the legitimate variety, okay, the 10 major competitors in the world, what are the quality? What's the quality going to look like from those guys? Good, bad, or okay?
It'll be good. When you're talking about the top tier of people, there is a difference between the quality, and generally it's how it may not be dramatic. For example, the way they judge quality is what they call PPMs, the parts per million. In other words, how many defects per part per million does a company produce? And so you may have somebody with a PPM of say 10 or 11 versus somebody with a PPM of 7 or 8 or PPM of 5, 4. Whereas if you're comparing people in the top tier, that's probably what you're going to kind of find. If you're comparing a top tier person with somebody who's not quite as good at what they do as what the top people are, that PPM might be 50, it might be 100, it might be 150 as opposed to 15
Is the
20.
PPM going to be across the board, or is it going to be on a per product basis?
Both. They track it on a per product basis, but they also track it on a company by company basis in terms of the total.
What's their PPM?
Their PPM is about 5.
And what would you say Hoover's is? Just if you guess.
Probably about 6, 7, maybe.
Okay, and what about the major Japanese producers?
All probably within 5 or 6, 7 points of each other.
Okay, so they might, in other words, you guys are at 5, they might be at 6 or 7 or 10?
Yeah, or maybe even a 3. So, the point is most of the big players have a huge commitment to quality. They have continuous improvement programs that dwarf the efforts of the smaller players in the business. And that really is one of the things that makes the smaller player, it's one of the hurdles that keeps the smaller player from becoming a bigger player, is they don't have the capital to pull off the kind of continuous improvement programs that the big companies do.
And what happens if there's a defective part? How does that affect the company? Is it a monumental effect, or? Yeah,
it can be monumental. I mean, if you've got, for for example, some bearings in some oil and gas equipment that's in an application where you're under, you're underwater in the Gulf, and that bearing lets go or freezes up or just breaks down. The impact on the owner of that rig is huge, because one, it shuts down the rig, which is going to cost that particular operator probably a little over $1 million a day in terms of lost production. It's also going to cost them probably at least that much if someone's going to have to, run a submarine, basically, to go down down into the bowels of the rig. They're going to have to go in there. They're going to have to pull the damaged equipment out. They're going to have to fix it underwater. They're probably going to have to fly parts in from another station, from the States somewhere else to be put in there. It's probably going to take them, 3, 4, 5 days minimum, to fix that and get that up and running, which is all a huge expense for something that's probably, a $25 bearing. So, in fact, one of the ads that we did with Brian last year with these guys was, we showed a picture of a rig out in the middle of the Gulf, and we said, out here Six Sigma isn't good enough, because Six Sigma is the standard for manufacturing worldwide, but that's still 4 parts per million that are defective. And what we're saying as a company, that Six Sigma isn't good enough for that kind of an application. And what we're trying to do is make sure that people understand, you're out of your mind to try and save $1.50 on a bearing, for that kind of an application. The risk is way too big. And most of the players probably intrinsically know that, but we continually like to keep pointing it out so they don't forget. So, that's why the track record of a company's quality program is pretty important in the bearing business, especially, just because the cost of fixing a screw-up is pretty intense.
Okay, so let's talk about your quality program for a minute. You said the track record of the quality program is important. What is your track record?
Track record's real strong. If you look on the top of the of the bar going across, you see a tab for level 3. That's their quality improvement program. It's a branded program. It was actually a program that they bought and then bought the rights to from Rockwell, who has pretty much written the book in terms of quality programs over the years. But it's the interesting thing, Rich, is when you talk to customers and buyers and engineers of these customers, they'll tell you that everybody walks through the door saying, "Oh yeah, we got great quality. We got a great quality improvement program." Blah 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 blah. And then they start asking questions, and they find out pretty quickly that most of them are full of crap.
Does that include the legitimate competitors?
No, I guess not so much with them, but a lot of the people who are out there trying to beat the doors down and get into the big games, they're just trying to do it with smoke and mirrors. And the smart guys, and most of the big OEMs are pretty smart guys. They get to the bottom pretty quickly by asking very pointed questions about how you do this and how you do that, and how many people are involved, and where is it at? Do you have a director at the corporate level of this, and what's your budget for training? How many Kaizens do you do? There's lots of specific questions that they use to ferret out who actually has a legitimate program and who doesn't. And we've been told over and over and over, by these kinds of people, that the Level 3 program is one of the best programs that they've ever seen. And so, it really goes a long way towards differentiating NN and NN's companies from other competitors that they're out there duking it out with.
Okay, so why not talk about that on the homepage? And I'm not saying, hey, you should definitely be talking about that on the homepage. I'm asking you a genuine question. Why not talk about that on the homepage? And I'm acknowledging that maybe there's a good answer to that.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I guess we live with it every day and have lived with it for a couple decades now. It might be one of those situations where we you don't see the forest for the trees, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have you look at this web page before we did anything with it, because you know, the Level 3 program is a big deal. Now there is, if you go to some of the bigger competitors, they have their own programs, they have their own names on them, so you know, it's not really a big differentiator in terms of.
But you know what? I don't know that we should really pay attention to that very much. Okay? Because here's what you can do. You can take this preemptive approach of talking about your quality in very specific, very precise, very passionate, powerful ways. And even if there's other companies that can either kind of or completely hold up to your standards, who cares? We can still talk about it as if it's the greatest thing in the world, if it's better than everyone else, and if it happens that there's other companies that are, you know, sort of in our same echelon, I don't think there's really a problem with that. But see, we've taken, by what we're looking at on the screen here, the exact opposite approach, which is, well, you know, maybe we're not all that much better than some of our close competitors, so we're just not going to talk about it at all unless you dig down into some of our technical specifications on our Level 3 program. And what I would suggest is, if you've already got 70% of the marketplace, and let's assume that the average customer of yours or potential customer of yours is aware of that. They don't know that it's necessarily 70%, but they know that there's this company called NN that's a big, fat, 800-pound gorilla, right?
Yep.
I mean, everybody knows that. It's like Coke and Coke and Pepsi, right?
Yep.
I mean, even if you hate Coke, you're very well aware that Coke is out there, that it's very popular, and people drink a lot of it, okay? So can I assume that NN has that same kind of awareness among prospects and customers?
Yes.
Okay. So why not talk about the quality? And it's going to ingrain into these people even stronger and stronger and stronger. Oh, that's why they're so big, because they're that good. There's no reason to go anywhere else. And yeah, they're probably more expensive, because the biggest guy usually is more expensive. That's why he's big, because he can afford to do stuff right, correct?
Yep.
So why not just pound that single key on the piano over and over and over and over and over again? You know, I jotted some notes as we were talking. You know, everyone says they have I don't know what the right word is. I put a blank here. You know, a great, a killer, an awesome, whatever. Everyone says they have a great quality program. Ask these I took this word right from you. Ask these 7 pointed questions to find out for sure. I love that, 7 pointed questions. Then you can just put those questions in there. Now, here's what you're not doing. You're not suggesting that every company besides you sucks. You're just accentuating what you do that makes you great. So if we look at this, you know, I want to make sure that the thing that is communicated immediately when somebody looks at this website is, oh, this is the guys that live and die by quality. And right now, when I look at this website, I look at it and go, oh, this is the company that sells bearing components. Well, guess what? Nobody's going to end up on your website ever unless they have some sort of need or interest in bearing type things, right? It's not like you have to tell people, it's not like Coca-Cola has to say, we have cola drinks. Duh, we know that. We have better tasting cola drinks. We have, you know, the ones that are the real thing cola drinks. So we don't have to really come in here and say, hey, here's what we do. And I think it's okay that we differentiate bearing components and all these things. It's appropriate, but the overriding message should be the most freaking killer, awesome, high-quality bearing components on the freaking planet. obviously you're not going to say it like that. That's not even remotely appropriate to say it that way, but I want people to get that communicated to them as soon as they come to this website.
Okay. Now, there's, I guess one piece of this that I haven't shared with you that I should have. This is the website for the corporate holding company. If you click on any one of the other three pictures in there, it'll take you to. There's a separate website that we're putting together. It's not up yet, but we're putting a separate website together for the metal bearing components business itself. And then we have a website for Delta Rubber, which is the rubber components. So we have a separate website for the plastic components, which is the Industrial Molding Corporation. And then we also have a separate website for the precision metal parts. So the kind of things that you're talking about are things that that we have.
Okay, so answer this question. Answer this question then. Under what circumstance would somebody find themselves looking at this website?
Okay. Probably one of two ways. One, they're either an investor because it's a publicly held company. They're either an investor that has been, either their broker or somebody, or they picked up one of the stories about NN that are constantly popping up on the web as a great potential investment. Somebody says, well, I don't know a hell of a lot about them. I'm going to go find out about this company. That's one way. Another way would be if someone is working, or say it's someone who's a new customer to any one of the divisions or any one of the subsidiaries. One part of the message there when those companies all sell is the fact that they're part of the NN organization, because NN is pretty cash rich and able to invest in their customers' business, which a lot of their competitors are not. So one of the first things that we know, because we asked about 40 or 50 different customers, one of the first things they do is they go to the NN website to check out the parent company. So what we want in both cases, we want people to look at the website and come away thinking, Jesus, these guys are pretty slick. These guys really got their act together. They're everywhere. They're in a lot of different industries. They have a lot of different products. They're really a balanced manufacturer in terms of materials and the types of products they have. They're not all, whether it's plastic, whether it's rubber, whether it's metal. These guys got it all. I mean, this is a first-class company. And if somebody comes away from this website with that feeling, then the website's done its job, because that's really what the corporate website's all about. And the other side of this particular site, because it's publicly held, is the investor relations section, which is really the primary and the marketing hub for the investor relations program. If the current website that they have up is really rather dismal, especially when it comes to the investor relations side of things. So this particular website represents really a huge leap forward in terms of how they're positioning themselves in the investment community as well as the business community. So I'm sorry, I should have pointed that out when we started our conversation. But I made notes on what you're saying as far as the level 3, and I'm definitely going to incorporate that into the metal bearing site, because that's also one that's well into the development stage, and we hope to have that up in the next 30 to 60 days. And that'll be really the first time that the metal bearing components business has had their own website or their own marketing thrust. So it's really kind of a watershed moment in terms of the metal bearing components business, the business units of marketing. So they've just never done anything like this. So I really like your suggestion of beating
I don't know
the drum.
that necessarily changes. Okay, so I might put something like this on the homepage: the world's leading manufacturer of high-quality precision bearing components. So here's what I just communicated: the world's leading. Now you say, well, that's a platitude. Well, it's actually not a platitude because it's a quantifiable fact, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then somewhere as a subheadline or somewhere on this website, I might put something like this. Our 70% global market share is a direct result or a testament or something like that. Our 70% global market share is a direct result of our decades-old unwavering commitment to absolute quality. Now, what have I just communicated to potential investors? Holy freaking crap, this is the world's biggest company. They got 70% market share. They're the world leader, and the reason is because they're freaking hard butts about quality. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And how long? Oh, by the way, how long have you been like this? Oh, decades, which I'm assuming is true. I don't really know that, but I'm gonna go with some assumptions here.
Yes.
I mean, you don't just come big poof overnight do this. So, you know, if we got to look at these targets that are looking at this website, and that it goes to that question. Okay, well, under what circumstances is somebody going to be looking at this? Okay, well, somebody that wants to invest in the company. Okay, great. What do I want them to know? Well, I want them to know we're diversified and all these things. Okay, great, but here's what I want. I want a power statement. I want an identity statement. What is it about this company? The world's leading manufacturer of high-quality precision bearing components. Our 70% global market share is a direct result of our decades-old unwavering commitment to absolute quality. Is there any question who this company is and what they stand for? No, none.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? You can't say that kind of crap unless you can back it up.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you Hoover can't say that. Can Hoover get away with calling themselves the world's leading manufacturer? No, they're not. Can they say 70% global market share? No, they can't. It's false. It's a lie. So if I'm trying to impress investors and I'm trying to get people to look at this and go, holy crap, this company is freaking awesome, then I'm going to say some freaking awesome stuff. Here's what we've got right now. Oh, this could be anybody, any company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. I hate that. From bearings and seals, shafts and housing, precision products from NN companies play a critical role in making the earth move. You know what? You go take your biggest jackass competitor out of freaking Korea, they can say the same thing. I think.
Okay.
So, you know, that just kind of goes along with what I said earlier. Maybe, you know, if we took this approach, then we might want to add a tab or a button or something on there that says something about, you know, read more about our commitment to quality. Then as you get into commitment to quality, you might say something like I said earlier. Everyone says they have, you know, an unmatched commitment to quality and quality program. Well, ask these 7-pointed questions to find out for sure. And the 7-pointed questions really are just a way to highlight what you do well, right?
Yes.
You know, how many people, how much money, how, you know, blah, 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 whatever those things are. I don't know what they are. You kind of brushed over a few of them earlier, and I didn't get them on notes, but you know what they are, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
good.
Think about this. Think about your target investors. I think that was the main one by a long shot. True enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's investors, I mean, think about this. If you're an investor and you don't know that much about the company, which I think was the scenario that you told me, hey, you know, who is this company? You know, let's learn more about them. Okay, that they are diversified is good. That they have different products for different kind of situations is good. I like all that. But here's what's better. If I can quickly communicate that for decades they've been the global leader, they've got 70% market share, and the reason is because they don't waver on quality. In 3 to 5 seconds, I've captured that investor. It's done. It's over. But see, now I come in here and I go, okay, about us. We're a $600 million company by 2015. We have to, okay, they're big, that's good. Our businesses, okay, they're diversified, industry solutions. Okay, they got lots of things. Level 3 program, what is this? Continuous improvement. But see, I think you're shortchanging this level 3 program. I think you're assuming that everybody immediately knows what a level 3 program is, and that they automatically draw the conclusion, if they even read this, about this continuous improvement, that that is the same thing as quality. Now, I know that those things are very closely tied, and I know that anybody could sit down and figure that out, and if somebody read through this, they would know that. But I don't like talking about a continuous improvement program. I like talking about a freaking kick-A quality program that, you know, uses continuous improvement, of course, obviously. I think you're a little bit too close to this to see that.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably true. I mean, I've had this discussion with the CEO in the past, you know, that I felt that the level 3 program was not being promoted adequately, that it was a bigger deal.
This reminds me of an ad that we used to make fun of in seminars years and years ago when we used to show Yellow Pages ads in our seminars. And it was for a auto mechanic, and it said, now using the Rotec R13 equipment. And I was like, what the heck is a Rotec R13? I don't know. Well, here's what it is. It's a piece of equipment that allows them to very accurately diagnose problems so that they don't fix things that aren't broken. They do fix the things that are broken, and it's a more higher quality experience for the customer. Oh, okay. But to call it the Rotec R13, everybody looks at it and goes, what?
Yep.
Now, we have this thing that allows us to, you know, achieve all these high quality and experience, blah, 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 and it's called the Rotec R13. Oh, okay, great, whatever. Who cares what it's called? The level 3 program. So I just want to make sure that we communicate with a lot more passion, a lot more precision, a lot more power. And I think the way we can do that is very simple. The world's leading manufacturer of high-quality precision bearing components, and then a subheadline somewhere in there, our 70% global market share is a direct result of our decades-old unwavering commitment to absolute quality. Look how powerfully that's stated. Decades-old, unwavering, absolute quality.
Mm-hmm.
Is there much doubt what is important to this company? Oh, their products probably suck. So that's what I would do. I like that.
Okay.
All right, your turn. Ask me any other questions about this.
No, it's good. That's you know, it's one of the reasons I wanted you to take a look at it, because I kind of figured you'd probably see the trees instead of the forest, just like you did.
That's what we're good at. That's what we do.
That's good.
It's very helpful to not know anything about these companies coming in and just kind of look at it and go, okay, here's what the deal is. So that's it for now. Let's pick up this conversation later, whenever's good for you and whenever you have some more stuff to look at, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, guys, that's going to end up the call for today. So appreciate you being on, and we'll talk to you Thursday. We've got another webinar, strategic marketing call. Topic is pre-customer service. We'll talk to you then. See ya. Bye now.
Take care. Bye.
The organizer has